Welcome everyone to episode 22 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Doug and Owen, and today we're going to be talking about two new releases, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and The Boogeyman. We'll cover some news at the end of the episode. As always, please share the episode, like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow our Twitter at the link in the episode description. And before we get into anything else, let's talk about what we watched this past week. Who wants to go first? I could go first this week, actually, because I didn't watch a lot of stuff.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, because I only watched
hit him with it.
Okay, I watched Fidel, which is a 1969, I want to say, documentary about Fidel Castro that's available on Tubi, and like nobody has seen it. It has literally like I think 105 logs on Letterboxd. Really good documentary, actually. It's like a lot of like footage of Fidel talking to people in Cuba and like just really fascinating stuff, like speeches of Fidel and like a lot of like just footage of him talking about revolutionary ideas to the camera. It's just cool. It's cool. There's like one speech where he like mentions Che Guevara and like it's just awesome. I mean, he's just an awesome dude. Really, and I made
those Che Soderbergh films.
Yeah, I do. I've been putting those off for a while. I still have to. I like a lot of like, because I saw what was it, the Motorcycle Diaries, which is like the Che movie, but like pre, him being very popular. And that one's like pretty good, but I want to watch like the real good stuff. But yeah, that was cool. I made a TikTok. People were weird in the comments, but it's fine. Surprise! Not a lot of people. Yeah, not a lot of people have good opinions about Fidel Castro. Shocker.
Or just good opinions in general. To be honest.
Yeah, not a lot of people have good opinions.
It's just like
Man,
people.
You would not to derail the conversation, but it is like it's so bizarre. Changing the whole topic of the fucking podcast, but it's so bizarre the way that people talk about Cuba and America. It is so fucking weird. I remember when I was in high school. I was in my sociology class in high school, and I don't remember why it got brought up. But then my professor said something about Cuba as like something as like an example of something negative, and I was like, no, like Cuba's like a cool place to live. Or, like Cuba's like doing well, and he was like, the first thing he fucking said was they have old cars. I was like,
that sounds awesome. Old car.
Yeah, because the United States forced an embargo on them, so they can't get new shit.
Yeah.
Dude. Like, what do you want from them? Like, what the fuck?
No, the other one I have to watch. Because you mentioned the Che movies, I have to watch Cuba and the Cameraman. I think that's like the next Cuba theme thing, because that's the documentary director John Alpert who has. That one movie I always bring up that I still haven't watched because I just don't know when I'm gonna like want to stomach it. I don't know. I just every time I hear people talk about it, I'm like, this has to be the most depressing documentary ever. So I don't really know when I'm gonna like
Pain and Gain?
Force myself to get the one. No, it's called Life of Crime, 1984 to 2020, and it's like it takes place in New Jersey.
That's like a new documentary, right?
Pretty new. Yeah. Well, he made like multiple Life of Crime things. Like he like made them in the past, and then recently I think he pulled footage from the old ones combined with like new stuff, and then made like the newer version that just got released on HBO like 2 years ago or whatever. But anyway, that completely derailed the conversation because that's not what we're talking about. I watched first Transformers. Hopefully going to watch the rest of them before the new one comes out. We shall see. But the first Transformers is fucking awesome. I don't know what that was. Was that like an Optimus Prime impression? What was that?
No, it was like the. I can't do it again. You can't make me do it again. But it's like the sound that they make when they transform.
Yeah, no. I get what you're going for now. Yeah. No, the first Transformers is really fucking cool. And I guess that's really like the big. Oh, I watched The House Bunny. John has wanted me to watch that movie for a while. Our friend of the pod, John, has wanted me to watch The House Bunny for a while. I finally watched it, and it was silly and definitely a movie that would never be made today. But it did get made. 2008. It feels like it's even earlier than a 2008 movie. The plot is like one of those. It's a John plot. Yeah, it's the same. What's it called? It's produced by the Happy Gilmore, whatever the fuck, like the Adam Sandler studio. What's
The
it
Adam
called?
Sandler studio.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Happy Madison. Happy Madison.
Happy
Yeah,
Madison. Yeah. So that pretty much tells you what you need to know about what type of movie it is. But yeah, it was actually like kind of funny. And that was really it. Oh, and I watched that reality movie, that new Sydney Sweeney movie.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna watch that, and then he told me not to, and I was like,
yeah, I don't think you'd really like it. I don't know. I'm like kind of on the fence about it because I'm like, this is kind of interesting, but like it's only interesting enough for me to be like, yeah, this is pretty. The movie itself is pretty bland. There's like some weird thing that they do where they like introduce the movie by being like, yeah, all the dialogue in this movie is from like the transcripts recorded by the FBI in real life. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool thing to do. And then like every 5 minutes on screen, they like cut to like a typewriter typing up the transcripts and like showing that. I'm like, you already told us this. Why are you like remind? I don't know. That was fucking stupid.
Distracting.
Yeah. But anyway, you guys could go.
Yeah. The thing with the Sydney Sweeney movie, I wanted to watch it because there's that funny photo people keep posting of her from the movie as like in uniform. It's so silly.
Which is like not a shot in the movie. It's just like a picture that they show in the movie for like a split second. That doesn't like happen in the movie, but that picture of her is in the movie.
Okay. Yeah. So this week I watched The Boogeyman. And
really?
Actually.
I rewatched Dungeons and Dragons with
I want to
my
rewatch
mom.
that.
It was fun. It's good. I upon rewatch, like at home on my TV. Actually, I noticed a lot of the visual stuff they were doing. I was like, wow, they're really using a variety of lenses here. Like there's like
there's a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff going on. I was like, this is like people that because I saw a take recently. Because like since it's been on my blog, more people have seen it. I saw a take recently where some people on Twitter were like, "This is literally just a Marvel movie. Like, what are you guys talking about?"
Yeah.
And upon rewatch, I was like, "It's not. I mean, it's like you could be like, oh, it's like a dumb like family movie, and it's like sure it is, but it's like there's a lot of interesting like visual stuff happening."
Yeah. I think like what the Dungeons and Dragons movie does best is some of the stuff that I have like the biggest gripes with how Marvel works. Like I think a lot of the lens, like talking about the lens stuff and all like the filmmaking techniques that are being used, it oozes of kind of the creativity that Marvel's lacking at this point.
Yeah. Well, even like in Dungeons and Dragons, when rewatching it, I was like, at some point early in the movie, I was like, oh, that's a split diopter that I didn't notice before, and I was like, oh, it's not like flashy or whatever. It's just like utilitarian kind of like interesting like composition, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I watched this movie called The Last Time I Saw Paris, directed by Richard Brooks.
Is that old movie that you watched?
Yeah, it's the old movie I watched.
I was like, why did he watch this?
I watched it on VHS with my mom because it's like one of her favorite movies.
Gotcha.
Shout out. Like not awesome.
It was just so random. I saw you log it. I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, you saw me log it, and then you saw that you'd follow nobody that has heard of this movie.
Yeah. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then I watched Spider-Man, which we'll talk about. And then last night I went to a midnight screening of Pink Flamingos. For Pride Month. It's Pride, and it was fucking awesome. Love that movie. So yeah, shout out.
Yeah, I want to watch that movie sometime soon. Still haven't seen it.
I watched Zeros and Ones. And because I watched Zeros and Ones, Owen went on like a whole
transition. That's crazy. Bro, trying to spin that on me. Bro, put the dreidel on the floor, man. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, Owen's known as a little bit of a follower.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what your internet.
Is it Ferrara? How do you say it? Ferrara.
Abel Ferrara. Sorry.
Ferrara.
Yeah, I think it's Ferrara.
All right. So before Doug watched Zeros and Ones, I watched this little movie called Padre Pio by Abel Ferrara, which is his newest movie. And after I liked that movie, I went and watched Zeros and Ones, and then I watched 444 Last Day on Earth. And I also watched this movie called Mystery of the Wax Museum from 1933, which is the same director, Michael Curtiz, who directed Casablanca. Speaking of Taika Waititi was like, no one remembers this guy. Mystery of the Wax Museum.
Is that why you watched it? Because of the Taika
No. I would have watched Casablanca and made a stupid review if I was going to do it for that.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. It's like we watched that Wax movie in the Discord
House
a
of
while
Wax.
back. Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
it's
love
like
House
it's
of
one of
Wax.
the old. It's like kind of the old version of this. There's two of them. I think there's a 33.
Well, I think House of Wax also is a remake of a
Yeah, there's a lot of like
like
those
1950s House
yeah,
of
so there's
Wax.
a 50s one, there's
Yeah.
like a 30s one, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I really like this one. I thought it was really cool. There's like the copy of it is pretty bad, but I know there's a restoration out there that looks really great. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Really liked that though. And I watched like a bunch of other stuff. I watched Under the Silver Lake. Would I watch Under the Silver Lake before last episode? I don't know. I
think
really
you
like
mentioned
that.
that last episode.
Yeah, I watched The Phantom of the Opera, and like I've been just kind of watching like older, like classic horror things.
Yeah, like Under the Silver Lake.
Cool.
Not Under the Silver Lake. I watched Blood Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And then I watched The Phantom of the Opera from the 20s and
The
stuff.
old one, not the 2008 one.
Not Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of like was like in this like weird old horror thing, and then I jumped into Abel Ferreira, and that's where I am now.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I think we're gonna start with Across the Spider-Verse because that's the big movie.
That's the big ticket, man.
I think that we should reverse it.
No.
You think we should start with Boogeyman? I feel like people want to hear more about Spider-Verse.
I think people are here for the spiders, man.
So that's why they should stick around for later in the episode.
Oh, okay.
Well, then they could just skip the end. They could just skip forward in the episode.
No, I want to talk about Spider-Verse last because I think that we're gonna have a longer conversation about it.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's boogie.
Let's talk about Boogeyman. We all rated this movie the same exact rating, 3 out of 5 stars. Where do we want to start? Do either of you want to start?
I think I could sum up.
But I think our systems are completely different. I think we feel like semi-different about the movie.
Sum up the Boogeyman very, very concisely. Okay.
Okay.
It was okay.
That's concise.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I mean, this is what I was saying before we started recording. I think it was like probably enhanced by 2 things for me. One, the fact that there was actually people in my theater when I thought there weren't going to be any. There was like 5 rows pretty much full of people, which I was like,
well, actually, for me too, it was like, why are people here right now?
Yeah, exactly. When Spider-Verse was playing, I was like, nobody's going to be in this theater, and there was a lot of people in the theater. And
there were like little ass kids in my theater too. I was like,
there was a bunch of teenagers. There was a bunch of teenagers in my theater.
Like this dude was like, that's why that kid was like 10 years old.
But
have nightmares.
Yeah, I think that enhanced my experience a lot because everybody around me was having fun. Like there was like people sitting literally directly behind me that were like laughing at the movie the entire time. I think because they thought it sucked, but that's fine because they were enjoying it. But then there was like other people somewhere else in the theater who were like getting really scared by like the jump scares and like screaming at the screen. And I was like, this is fun. Like everybody's like getting into this. So I don't know. That made it exciting. And the other thing that I think made it a little bit better, which I mentioned when I posted my review, is that I think like when they make these pretty like basic, like I say generic because like the story is generic, you know what I mean? But like when they make these pretty like basic horror movies, if all the performances are just decent, the movie just feels so much better. Like if you just put like nothing, like decent performances in these movies, then it's so much more believable for me. Like obviously believable, but like everything else is more effective.
Like the youngest girl in this movie plays Princess Leia in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Shit.
I was watching the show and I was like, oh, I recognize this fucking.
That's funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought everybody in the movie was decent, and like that makes it like work like horror wise. Because when the performances are like distracting, I'm like, I can't buy into this. Like I can't.
Well, that's the thing. You can't go into a horror movie. Well, it's like you can, I guess, but like a horror movie, kind of you want the people to live or something. I guess you want to have feel for the characters.
Am I crazy? Because every time, a couple of times throughout the movie, I was thinking like, oh, this looks like somebody I know, like the main character, and it's like, does the main actress in this movie look like Sarah, like the person that we all know?
Oh.
Am I crazy?
I didn't think that during the movie, but
I didn't think that during the movie.
Okay.
looking at her picture on Letterboxd, I could see it a little bit more, but during the movie, I was not thinking that.
Okay, yeah. Well, never mind. Anyway, that's not.
Shout out Sarah.
No, but I did think Sophia Thatcher was really like
She was
good
good.
in this movie. I liked
Sophie,
her a
I
lot.
think.
Yeah, I'm not. I was. That's the thing. Other thing, I wasn't really familiar with her.
Yeah.
Going into the movie, and I was like,
None of
I
these
pretty
actors
cool.
have really been in dick or balls, other than this movie.
Besides Chris.
Don't disrespect my guy Chris Messina like that.
Shout out
That's
Chris, man. Chris
yeah.
is having a big year.
I love Chris, dude.
Chris having a
No,
night.
literally, I got out of this movie and I told my friend, I was like, "Is Chris Messina one of my favorite actors?" I was like, "I love this guy, dude. I'm just
Yeah,
like gonna
Chris is
get
having a good
excited
year.
every time I see him in something now. Like he's just awesome."
Yeah.
No, but Sophie
Oh, right.
Thatcher. Sophie Thatcher is I didn't realize this,
Yellow
but
Jackets.
until after, yeah. But she's like one of the main characters in Yellow Jackets, and that's the show I was like planning on starting soon. So now that I saw her in this, I'm like, that's probably a sign. I should probably start the show soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, she was good though. She was like really good for a lead in like this kind of movie.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the big kind of like cultural talking point for this movie is that this is like director Rob Savage's first studio
Rob.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of his other movies have been very kind of like very low budget, like indie found footage movies that are a little transgressive in different ways.
Yeah.
And this was him getting tamed a little bit, taming the savage.
Yeah.
With like real money
Taming the
behind it.
Savage.
Taming the Savage is
All right.
is a great episode title, by the way.
I heard from through the grapevine that from somebody that worked on this movie, that Rob had a very hard time transitioning to working on a studio film because they shot it in New Orleans, and Rob would just be like, okay, let's like, you know, get like a smaller crew, like, you know, let's get the crew together and some actors and just like go out and shoot on the streets. And it's like, oh, like he's like not allowed to do that because like, you know, when you're working on a studio film, you have to like go through producers and you have to get permits and you have to like tell them like what you're gonna do, and he's just like, no, I just want to like go fucking figure something out. So it was like a hard transition for him to work with like money like this.
As somebody who hasn't seen a Rob Savage movie before, I didn't realize he had like the reputation he had, because after I watched the movie, my friend who I see every movie with, shout out Lima, he saw like the credits roll and he looked at the screen like when they said Rob Savage's name and he was like, "Oh, Rob Savage made this movie?" And I was like, "Why do you know who that is?" Like, because he's not like my friend who I see movies with is not like does not watch movies the way that we like. He just like watches whatever we go see together, and like he doesn't like, you know. So he does like horror a lot though, I guess. But I don't know. He just like he was just like, "Oh, Rob Savage made this," and I was like, "Oh, you know who that is?" Because I was like, I barely know who that is.
Well, I think that Host was a pretty popular movie in 2020. Like I think it was a pretty popular like pandemic movie.
That makes sense.
And Dashcam, I don't think a lot of people have seen Dashcam, but I think a lot of people have heard of Dashcam, which is that like which is what's the other movie?
Was Dashcam on Netflix?
It might have been.
It feels like horror movies that would be really big on Netflix.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it was on Netflix for a while, which is maybe why a lot of people ended up seeing it.
But the normie crowd knows about it.
That's one way to phrase it.
I don't know. I feel like it's just like it kind of has this B movie kind of horror vibe that I like. I don't know.
The
Boogeyman, you're saying?
The Boogeyman, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know like what you would call it, but I do really like the kind of horror films that tap into like childlike fears. Like we go to like Skinamarink, or I think like Toby Hooper's Invaders from Mars or something like that.
Yeah.
I really like the whole like child fear aspect.
When I was watching this movie, I was like, this is kind of like Skinamarink if the lights were on. This is kind of like Skinamarink if you could see stuff.
No,
well,
that's funny. When I was watching the movies, I was like, damn, why is it so fucking dark? Like somebody turn on a goddamn light.
Well, no, I mean not that, but you know what I mean. Like I mean like
I
it was like Skinamarink if like they were like showing not like that it was anything
they like showed faces,
but like but story wise,
more of like a
right on by the Boogeyman kind of thing.
Plot. Yeah, I really like the whole like scared of the closet kind of thing. And I don't think it's a perfect movie or anything, but that's the kind of horror I'm gravitated towards, is stuff like that. And I thought the performances were fun. I liked the characters, and it was just a fun little horror movie that I didn't expect. and it's probably one of my favorite horror movies of the year. There's not too many that I really loved.
Yeah.
But I think it's up there as just a fun horror movie.
Yeah. I
It's
think there's
good.
like some good horror moments for sure.
I think the movie's pretty well directed and pretty well acted. I think my biggest kind of like issues come with the fact. Well, okay, let me say this. I think that this would have been a bad movie if somebody else directed it. Because I think
That's
that
valid.
I think that the script, like the screenplay, is a little lackluster, and I think that's probably
That's the
because
weakest part of the movie.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
my interpretation of that, even though I can't say for sure because I haven't read it, is I feel like this short, like the Stephen King short story it's based off of, probably isn't very good. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I mean,
Like that's just like
Yeah.
the vibe I get from the movie. I'm like this the Stephen King short story it's based off of probably isn't the best because like at the end of the movie it falls into that fucking Stephen King thing where he has to like hit the audience over the head with like, oh, this is an allegory for a like whatever, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, this
Are you
is
talking
great.
about the house burning?
Yeah, well, like the house burning down and like
Yeah.
how like they like the family like basically has like they like team up like the Avengers at the end of like kill the monster, and I'm like
Yeah,
and
I
like
mean,
and I'm like and the daughter's like talking to the monster at the end, and I'm like, man, you could not make this more obviously like a metaphor
Yeah.
for you know, like family and trauma if you tried.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's like that part of the movie, I guess, is what I mentioned. Like that's pretty much what lowered my rating for the movie because I was having mostly fun with this movie up until that third act, and then
Yeah, I think the
it
third act's the
it
weakest.
just felt like so many movies that I've watched before, and they even like down to like the specific moment. How many movies exist where they do that thing where someone's being attacked and like laying on the ground and there's like an object they could kill somebody with like just out of reach
Yeah,
and they like
and then
keep
the
reaching
other
for
guy,
it like there's got to be like
yeah,
1,000 movies that have done that before.
yeah,
And I guess
yeah.
they kind of like subvert it by having like the dad hit it instead of like the girl just like stabbing it in the movie ending. But I don't know. That just like
Yeah,
there was so
I
many
think
moments like that. In that,
weakest
like, third
moments
act.
in just overall script and in the third act, but I think the rest of it is really solid.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that the who did this movie? I don't even know who produced it.
Like who? Yeah,
Yeah, but I think that the
Um,
studio really kind of struck out with this cast and this director because they kind of like made the movie. They kind of turned a bad
I'm-
movie into a good movie. I think.
I'm sure like this wasn't an expensive movie to make.
No, horror
No,
movies are fucking cheap as hell, dude.
Yeah.
35
Studios.
million.
Oh, it's 20th Century Studios.
I
Yes.
mean that feels like it's the best movie that Scott Beck and Brian Woods did this year. It's definitely better than
Wait.
65.
I will
okay.
say it's
Okay.
also the best Sean Levy movie this year.
Oh,
I'm just
shout
saying that
out.
now.
They're doing
Oh.
they're striking for new heights.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean 35 million's pretty decent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
more
probably
than I
already
thought
made
it
its
would
money
be. I mean, I
back.
guess it's
Like,
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause both
again,
our
like
theaters
Kevin
had a good
said,
amount of people.
we had
Yeah,
people in our
so-
theaters.
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
gonna.
my theater
it'll
was
definitely
almost
make
sold
35
out.
million. Really?
But I went
Oh
to
shit.
yeah, but I saw it like I saw like a Wednesday night like special preview.
Oh, like the
Um,
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I liked like I was never like scared per se, but I think it has like some moments that are like genuinely
was
like
freaked
good, like
out a little
like
bit.
creepy moments. I think there was
Yeah.
I really like the scene where she gets locked in the closet. I thought that was I mean like I kind of
like yeah.
I liked it because it was like I liked it because I saw it coming and I was like, don't do that. And then they did it and I was like, damn it. And then it like pissed me off, which made me enjoy it more because I saw like them setting it up, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like they were like
yeah.
trying to get her in the closet. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna lock her in the closet and then the thing's gonna be in there. And it like bothered me, but in a good way, I guess.
I liked the part when she goes in the house and she's like, oh, it's like all like, you know, fucking creepy, and like the wife is there, and
Yeah.
the wife like just shoots
Yeah.
the fucking shotgun behind her head. I was like, this is fucking terrifying. Like
Yeah. No, she was yeah,
Um,
she was pretty good too. There's like everybody in the supporting roles is like pretty like
Yeah.
that does their job.
I think there's a lot of great stuff. It just doesn't totally all come together, but I think like
Yeah.
yeah,
there's a little bit of like it kind of like when they're and I wish we got more of Sophie Thatcher's character at school because you
Yeah.
have like there's like it kind of feels pointless the scenes they give you, but it feels like there's something there that you could have like gotten more out of.
Yeah.
I like don't love that stuff with like
Yeah,
her and
it's like
her
that stuff
friends.
didn't
It doesn't really
that
It feels
stuff
build to
very
anything.
didn't
surface
work.
level. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was surface
Yeah.
level to the point where it was like you either got to get rid of it or build on it.
yeah,
Was
and
that
like one
that
of
was
the
where I was
characters
at?
is like, well, watching is like it's so like one of like the mean girl is like comically evil, you know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like what the
Like
fuck?
that, like a little too evil. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
your
it's
mom
like
died? That's so funny.
it's
yeah, it's
like
like yeah, no, literally, it's like, and then
that's
she like locks her in a closet, and she's like, "Oh, you're such a bitch for freaking out.
Yeah.
Nobody likes you anyway." And it's like,
yeah,
what's
no.
happening?
That
Like, what?
Yeah.
I wish
No,
yeah, that
she was
was like
bad.
one of my besides like the third act and stuff, the biggest kind of issue I had with like the overall story is the weird like high school stuff.
Yeah. I just don't like that it like doesn't lead to anything
That's
other than
what
like
it
that
never
other
like
than that
it's
moment where
just
they're like,
it's
oh, you're a weirdo, we're leaving. And then
yeah,
they just
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like
It's
okay.
very like surface level and it doesn't really nothing
Yeah.
comes out of it for me.
Like I guess it like
Yeah.
had even with like her character who's
It just
like
kind
her
of pushes the
friend.
narrative along, I guess.
Yeah,
Like
I was gonna say
everything
like
that it
all
does
it does is like have her like friend as a ride to that house. Like,
yeah, and then
but
you
then she
gotta
goes back to the
Yeah.
you
house
need
later
someone
without
to
a
throw
ride.
you need someone to throw that weird like food she found in her locker on her dress or something.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
this
know.
makes me think more too about like I wonder if the short story, if that's like a bigger part of the short story too, and they just kind of like
Yeah.
just kept the essential
Yeah.
parts of it from adapting it. But I don't know.
'Cause, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
I
true.
wish we got more that she like leaves school immediately. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
Because those characters don't.
because
need to be
it's
there.
not I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could
Yeah.
literally shave like probably 10 minutes off the movie if you just like get rid of those guys, and it would be a simpler
Yeah, yeah.
experience. Like,
Pretty much the same movie.
It's only like
Yeah.
what,
Although
99 minutes long.
yeah, I guess the only thing you can say is that like those moments make you care about her as a protagonist a little more.
yeah,
Like make you
yeah. I
root
mean,
for
it makes
her a
you
little bit
understand
more.
where she's coming from a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah. But like also you could
Yeah, I
do
don't
more
even know if we
like
shave them off. I wish they built on that almost.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
it's there's like something there that's just not tapped into to the point where it's like it kind of feels pointless, but I feel like there's a decent idea there.
yeah. Rob
I agree.
Savage should have just pulled up with Sophie Thatcher to a random high school without telling the studio and shot some more stuff.
That's funny. Yeah, the only other thing I want to mention when we're talking about the scares that I mentioned to Owen yesterday was the part where the
at the
like
end.
the boogeyman like
yeah.
jumps through the door. That part was awesome. I love that part
Yeah.
where like she
Was
closes
that
and
in
she
the that's
slams
in the
door.
trailer, Doug?
Yeah, I
that is in the trailer.
I didn't
Yeah.
see that in the trailer, or at least the
Um,
trailer I watched.
I'm gonna be on like yeah. Anyway, so because I saw the trailer so many times, and this
Yeah.
is another thing where it's like it's not the movie's fault, I guess, but like while watching the movie, because like I thought the trailer was really awesome, and it made me excited to see it because I was like, wow, this movie like looks really good.
Yeah.
But like basically every cool part of the movie is in the trailer. Like every
Damn,
kind
yeah.
of cool moment is in like every single
Yeah.
one is
Yeah.
in the trailer.
That's
don't know
why
if I
I'm
just-
glad I'd never saw a trailer because I was like, oh,
Yeah,
this is cool.
I think my theater only showed like a teaser trailer when they were showing previews because the trailer I saw didn't really show like a lot of anything I saw in this movie. So I think they were only
Oh.
showing like the really like short trailer in my theater.
The trailer that they
Um,
played at the theater I frequent, it starts off with like them doing the light therapy.
Yeah,
and
like that
then-
wasn't in my
Oh,
trailer.
wow.
Okay, yeah. So like the light
Yeah.
therapy is in my trailer. The like the guy at the beginning that passes
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
He's like
Fucking
freaking out in the
polka dot,
trailer.
man.
Like
Yeah.
like I think she might even be in the house in my like they show a lot of fucking shit in my trailer, dude. Like
Yeah. Oh, also speaking of the light therapy, that scene with the youngest daughter when she's like on the couch like playing video games or whatever, that scene fucking rocked. Yeah, I really like
that was in the trailer.
scene.
Bro,
What the
in the
fuck?
Damn.
Bro, in
They
the
just showed
trailer
the
they
whole
show
movie.
her getting thrown against the TV
Oh my
Damn.
god.
from that scene.
That's
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was
Yeah.
like like it's all like all of it was in the trailer. Yeah.
The whole movie.
Yeah,
They just
well,
cut out all the
I'm very glad
they
that's
cut
not
out all
trailer
the
that I saw.
like food on the dress and they just showed like the fucking cool shit.
Yeah, that was a cool when like she was playing like Halo, not Halo, but like whatever she was playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Killzone.
I
or
thought
whatever.
it was Fortnite at first, and then I, like,
That
then
would've
I
been
looked at the
funny as
screen
fuck.
longer, and I was like, no, okay. Yeah, I don't know. This movie was cool. Anything else we want to say before
Every
we move
time
on?
I would
Not
see
really.
The Boogeyman, I was like, that's just Willem Dafoe from the Netflix animation of Death Note. That was just all I was thinking of.
Ryuk.
Yeah,
So that's fucking
that's
Ryuk.
that's what I was saying when I saw him. But I
That's
like
funny.
the creature design on him. He was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It's
I mean, you don't really see much of it. It's really
Yeah.
eyes and
I like the way they use the eyes though. Like when,
Yeah.
like
Well,
the
like-
moments where there's just like you see the eyes in the
when
background.
when
like,
she's
oh,
playing the video game and she
yeah.
that shit
Yeah.
cool.
That
That
was
part was
really cool. That might be the coolest part of the movie. Actually, it was like she's playing the video game and she like shoots or whatever, and it like illuminates the room. and she,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
with the
She's
eyes.
smart as fuck with
Yeah.
that.
No, for real.
Yeah.
That part was awesome.
Yeah,
That whole little scene was awesome.
I guess in closing, the Boogeyman was okay.
Yeah, I think we all agree.
I think
Yeah.
good
neat-
movie.
neat
That's
movie.
kind of my brand of horror that I like.
Yeah, it's chill.
Okay, let's move on to our big movie then, since we're doing it second. Across the Spider-Verse. We can
Kind
do
of-
ratings for this one because there's a lot of variety.
Oh,
Well,
brother.
yeah, and I wanted to say it's like the numbers don't matter. Okay, we're having
Yeah.
an open
of
conversation
course.
about cinema.
Yeah,
about the
we just have to
Yeah.
mention
Uh,
ratings because the people need to know as a pretext.
Did the
And,
people?
you know, it's not even like this isn't because I want to be like this is not obviously more than just the movie of the week. This might be just like the movie of the year and like culturally in terms of like
Yeah,
how
for-
conversation
Definitely
wraps up.
culturally. I mean,
Like-
Yeah, I think we'll have to weigh it after we see.
Yeah, it's either
the
this or
cultural
it's-
response to Oppenheimer.
I was
we
gonna
have
say
to
it's
see
either
how people
this
react
or
to
like Barbie or
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. It's gonna be like one of these
Yeah.
three movies.
I honestly don't. I can't see Barbie and Oppenheimer being like this talked about.
I could
after
see
it comes
people.
out.
I could see people talking about Oppenheimer a lot,
But
depending on how.
well,
it's,
like
depending
especially
on
in
how it
like
goes.
in film circles, yeah. But I just don't see like the general
Well,
public.
I know a
here's a
lot of
question.
people who do not watch movies that have talked to like
Oppenheimer?
texted me and been like,
Interesting.
I need to see Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
don't know.
I
Like,
think I
I
might
just
like
feel
it.
like yeah, I Oppenheimer.
Like I have a friend.
Yeah.
I have a friend who
Yeah,
hasn't
no,
been to
I
the
think I'm gonna
movies.
like Oppenheimer.
I have a friend who hasn't been to the movies in like 2 years, and he texted me and he was like, "I need to go see Oppenheimer."
Is it because of
opening night."
Josh
I
Peck's
was
in the
like,
movie, or
Is
like
it
their
'cause of,
favorite
like,
their favorite white boy of
old
the week's
makeup
in the movie?
RDJ?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
So here's a
I don't
question
know.
then.
I think it'll be big.
A lot of obviously it's a Spider-Man movie, but like even like literally before Saturday, like the preview night Thursday and opening night Friday, by the end of Friday night, it felt like everybody I knew had seen this movie we're talking about, Across the Spider-Verse. Do you
Yeah.
feel like that
I
was
didn't
like the
see it
same
by
for you
then.
guys? I know you saw it Saturday, Owen, but like it felt like, but like you know, it felt like everybody in the
not
fucking
everybody,
world
but I mean
saw
like a
the
lot of
movie
people saw the movie.
immediately.
Yeah,
I know less of like people I know who aren't like big movie people. So I'm like everybody I know who's like into movies watched this movie this weekend, but I don't know as much about like
Yeah, I'm
other
not
people.
sure.
I think
I
I know
mean-
I do know some people who like saw this movie opening night.
I have two of my close friends who like aren't into movies. Like they would like if I were to be like, hey, do you want to go see whatever like kind of interesting movie? They would probably be like, no, not really, like not into that. They
Yeah.
both saw it Thursday night and they were like 5 stars, perfect.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
for tomorrow,
I
you
know.
like-
I know a couple of people who messaged me and were like, "This movie is awesome," and I was like, "Cool." I was like,
Yeah.
nice.
But
Yeah,
let's-
which like
okay,
same.
okay.
Obviously, I'm one of those people. Shocker.
Yeah,
but we can
Kevin
get
loves
into
this
that.
movie a lot. But here's the thing: it's not even a unique perspective. And not saying like it's not unique in like a bad way. It's
Yeah,
just kind
you're
of
just
I think
like an
it's more like an
NPC.
interesting way. And that's not what I'm trying to get at. But it's like yeah, Kevin really loved this movie, but like that's kind of
I
like the
do. I
status quo.
do have
what I mean?
some. Yeah, I do have
Well,
some
yeah,
criticisms of the
there are
movie, but like as I was thinking about
130,000
them,
5-stars in Letterboxd right now. That's 61% of the 237,000
yeah,
members
that's
who logged
insane.
in.
That's insane.
That is-
60%. Wait, 60% of all the ratings being 5 stars is so,
Yeah, 61%
so
of
crazy.
all the ratings.
That's
Yeah.
so
And
crazy.
I was so close. Like when I left the theater, I said to my friend, I was like, I think I'm gonna give it 4.5 instead of 5. And then I didn't like write my Letterboxd review as soon as I went home.
Yeah.
I waited 3
You, like,
hours and
marinated in it.
I was like doing other stuff and I was thinking about it, and like 3 hours passed and I was like, I kind of don't care about the things I thought I cared about. I was like, I just like this too much. Which like, yeah, maybe when I revisit it, because like you know, I'll have marinated longer, and then like I rewatch it like in the future, and like the issues are like a little more glaring, I'll be like, okay, maybe this isn't a 5-star movie. But I was like, I'm not gonna
Kevin, this is
be
your
dickless. I'll
first
just give it the
5-star of
now.
the year,
Yeah.
right? First 5
Yeah, I
stars
was
of the
like,
year.
I'm not gonna be annoying. I'll just give it the 5-star now, and then I could, you know, change
Yeah.
it later. Who cares?
You're
'Cause
part of the
ratings are ridiculous
61%.
anyway. Yeah,
There's
I just
a lot
want
of point, and
to enjoy it.
there's a lot of points that I'm going to bring up, and we don't. Might not even bring up all of them, but like there's a lot
Damn,
of
I'm in the
criticism-
0%. What the fuck?
But like there's like a lot of like, but there's just like a lot of stuff I'm gonna bring up that's my like kind of like criticism of the movie, and I want to just lay it out there immediately. Be like, let's not trying to start any arguments or like any like real disagreements. I want to have like a good faith discussion.
I don't think anything you say is I'm gonna disagree with. If
Okay,
that
that's
makes you feel better.
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm trying to get. I want to have like a good faith discussion, and really, it's not really just about this
Yeah.
movie, but maybe about like just like where we are at large with kind of populist movies.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Owen, what
Capitalist
did you think about it?
movies.
Because I know that you don't like this movie.
So I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen Into the Spider-Verse since it came out, and I remember liking that when it came out, and it's been like what? When did that come out? 2018.
2018.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That was the
that's
first movie I logged.
5 years
I
ago?
made a letterboxd. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's
Yeah.
15. So yeah, it's been a minute since I've seen that movie, and I don't like I'm like, oh, that movie is cool. I haven't really thought about it since, but during the entire Across the Spider-Verse, I was just thinking about the old movie and being like, I want to rewatch this movie instead.
Yeah.
And I struggled to really emotionally connect when I feel like the first movie felt more emotional to me, and
Mhm.
I felt like there was too much going on, and it's like the longest Western animated movie ever or whatever, and there's just so much, but I just feel like I never got any moment that I really liked in the movie.
Yeah.
But it was so much that I didn't even get any. It was like, I don't know, it felt really bloated to me to the point of like I couldn't connect to anything. I think there's one moment that I liked with Gwen and her dad, and I think there's a moment where I like towards the end with Miles and his mom that I was almost like, oh, this is the best scene in the movie, and I was like, oh, never mind, it's not.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that later.
Oh,
But
also, spoilers for this.
Yeah,
I'm
heavy
assuming everybody
spoilers.
that is listening to this.
Yeah,
has
we
watched
did.
this
Oh,
already.
that's true. We
Heavy
forgot about a
spoilers.
spoiler warning.
Not only are we going to spoil the movie, we're going to probably go like very specific.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the spoilers.
Good thing we haven't spoiled anything yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't know. It was a weird feeling because I expected to like reasonably like it. Like it's not my favorite thing or anything, but I was expected like 3 stars or whatever. Like
Yeah,
I
that's what
thought
you
this
gave
was.
the first one, right?
Yeah, that's what I have the first one at right now. I honestly like I was like, oh, I expect to like that kind of the same amount. But I just kind of felt flat for me.
Yeah.
But it's
I
think-
will say, unless you want, what were you gonna say?
No, what are you going to say?
No, I was
Cadence.
just gonna say, I think. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have to be a little bit defensive about all the
Yeah.
complaints, but yeah, no, I think what you mentioned, and this is the thing that I'm gonna say about the movie in general, like just to get this out of the way, because I think there's a pretty large crowd of people that saw this movie and they were like, "Holy shit! I didn't think they could upgrade from the first one, but they did it." I think the first movie is better in every way. Like I've gave both of these movies 5 stars, but these are 2 very different 5 stars in my opinion. And I think what you mentioned specifically about the emotion is a big difference in the first one. I think the first one is significantly more emotional than this one.
Yeah.
Like by far. Not that this one is like free of emotion in my opinion. Like I was still pretty emotional at times, but the first one, it like way more effective.
There's stuff interesting because like I do like this one more than the first one, but I
Really?
gave them the same rating, so it doesn't really matter. But my thing is like there are the highs of this movie I think are higher than the first one. Where like because like that's a big part of my thing with like Into the Spider-Verse, the first movie. Is because people would talk about like these like wow moments and these moments that are like holy shit, that kind of like changed movies for them or whatever, and it's like I was never that impressed by those moments and Into the Spider-Verse. Some of the wow moments and Across the Spider-Verse kind of like fucking blew my cock off. Like the
Can
opening
you go?
sequence.
Okay,
Yeah.
opening. I just wanted to go specifically into those
Oh,
wow moments.
so like the opening sequence, like literally like the first thing we see in the movie once the movie starts, what is Gwen playing the drums?
Okay.
Yeah.
I I don't want to exaggerate, but like that is one of the most impressively animated things I've ever seen. And not only just like impressive, but also I was like, this is beautiful. I was like, this is fucking
Yeah.
incredible. Like this is so awesome. Like just her playing the
Mhm.
drums at the beginning, and then that
Yeah.
whole sequence of her and then her dad, and like the movie setting up this through line of this universe being like kind of like having color theory, as like the backgrounds, and just having like our characters talking to each other, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then parts of the movie happened, and then another
Yeah.
moment that I was like, wow, was it's kind of like lame, and I feel bad that I kind of fell for this,
Yeah.
but when Miguel O'Hara was talking about was explaining to Miles like the canon theory, like the spider webs, like canon events, right?
Yeah.
And they talk about how your uncle has to die. If you're a spider person, your uncle has to die, right? And like it like pops up one, and then like it makes into like a million, and we see like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like it's not even just like, wow, it's Andrew Garfield. It's just like it caught me off guard, and I was like, oh, what, this is like they're using familiar imagery in like a very specific way, and I thought that it was like effective, and I was like, wow, holy shit. um
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's just like small moments like that where I was like, oh wow, this is like really cool. There's a lot of other moments where I was like, this is fucking lame as shit. Um,
Yeah. Which like
That's
but
really cool.
I imagine is like in the same vein with like familiar imagery, right? Because there's
well,
like yeah, because
the
there's
biggest
moments that are
thing,
very like MCU more than like Spider-Verse
the
stuff.
biggest thing that made me go like like fuck you, dude, was when the Spot, who also very cool character. That's another wow moment for
Yeah.
me, was actually when it was Miles like kind of like imagining the Spot, and it was like it was like black and white and like really like rough gestures he was drawing
Yeah.
in, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
wow, that's like really cool. Like that caught me off guard too. But no, when the Spot is like bouncing around from universe to universe, and he pops into the fucking Tom Hardy Venom universe, I was like,
Yeah.
literally
Yeah, he
go to
talks to
hell.
Mrs.
Like,
Chen.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, fuck you, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
um,
No, I get that. I think, and that's why I mention like when you say like how this movie kind of has like better highs than Into the Spider-Verse. I think the one thing that Into the Spider-Verse does significantly better is like that it's just consistent throughout for me.
mhm,
Because I think it feels Into the Spider-Verse feels a lot more like a movie that, despite the fact that it's a fucking Spider-Man movie and it's like a huge IP or whatever, like it feels like a very like original movie that like has never been made before, and it was just like these people that were like, we're gonna make this movie and it's like completely new and like nothing else. And then like Across the Spider-Verse is like, oh yeah, No Way Home happened, so we should probably make it feel
reference
more
that.
like that.
Well, they
um
literally reference the events of
yeah, they
No Way
do
Home in
reference
this
No
Yeah,
Way
movie
yeah.
too.
Home. Like that's what I meant. Like there's like those moments where it's like all the Spider-Men swinging, and I'm like, okay, like we've seen this before. And like same thing with like, like cameos and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it's clear that this movie is trying to appeal to things that the first movie didn't think it had to. Like the first movie was just its own thing, and it was like very comfortable being that.
Well,
Which I think is a big
also
difference between these two.
speaking about like we've seen this before, and like this is like because this is the fifth multiverse fucking superhero movie that's come out so far.
Yeah.
And
It's a
it's like
lot.
that's like that alone, like that's not
In
like
like 3 years
alone.
too.
Yeah, and like that's annoying, but that's not like a big deal. That's whatever. My criticism is like it's also like the fifth one that feels like it was directly inspired by Rick and Morty. You know, because like quantum, because like
Yeah.
and it's like actually I think it's now like totally undeniable that these movies are inspired
Well,
by Rick and
ripping
Morty.
writers straight from Rick and
Well,
Morty.
yeah, like I mean, Quantum
Yeah.
Mania was written by a staff
Yeah.
by one
Yeah.
of the core writers on Rick and Morty, and this movie, like, people are gonna say I'm fucking stupid, but it's like they have the whole fucking Council of Ricks bit from Rick and Morty just like in this
Yeah.
movie, and they're like, take it very seriously though, and it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's not even like
Yeah.
it's like that alone is not a criticism, but it's just like it's like it's you can't claim this to be like the most original movie ever, and then like
Yeah.
it just be like a rewritten Rick and Morty episode. You know
Yeah,
what
I think
mean?
it definitely
Yeah.
plays to my favor that I've never seen a Rick and Morty episode before. Like that definitely is beneficial on my end.
I think
But
the novelty
Yeah.
of a lot of it, of just like the stuff that's been done before, is just kind of worn off at this point. Even with the animation, I think, of Into the Spider-Verse, I did think that the Vulture character in the beginning of the movie was like
He
an
was like made out of
interesting
paper.
design.
Yeah.
When I talked to someone about the movie after it, and I was like, I wish when you go to the Spider-Man, like the Council of Ricks, whatever, honestly, a lot of those Spider-Men are pretty boring looking. Like,
So what they're trying to do is that they're trying to make as many like real Spider-Man that have existed before,
no, I
and the
know, but
problem
I
with
know
that
it's
is that they all look the
all,
same.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like they're all. It's like, oh, I recognize this guy and this guy, but I wanted to see like the Spider-Man from that Vulture's universe and stuff like that, because I think that would have been interesting visually, because that is stuff haven't seen before visually. Um,
Yeah.
and
This
they
is
kind of
another
copped out and were like, oh, let's show you the guy from the PlayStation. You know?
Yeah, from PlayStation
Yeah.
Spider-Man, which very that was also a cameo where I saw it and I was just like, oh shit, like just caught me off, not in a good way even. I was just like,
Yeah,
oh,
but
that's the thing I see.
it has that very much like point and yell because you recognize that guy, instead of like an actually cool like visually thing they could do.
Yeah.
Like I think like the T-Rex Spider-Man was like, okay, that's like at least
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
Like it's
cute.
that's
Yeah.
different from then like every other Spider-Man looking the same. Like it just, a lot of them
Yeah.
were very generic and just kind of like, oh, that guy's in this comic or whatever, instead of like being like some like old
That's
knight
what
Spider-Man or whatever.
that's something where I really liked that they put Ben Riley, the Scarlet Spider, in
Yep.
here, because they make him look just like he looked in the 90s. Like they drew him exactly how he was actually drawn in the 90s, and he like
Yeah.
sticks out so much
Yeah,
in a good way.
like
He
that.
looks like
They
really interesting.
should stick out and be different. The whole thing of the movie is like that they're multiverse and they're different Spider-Man. They should be different, and it kind of, I don't know.
This so this is okay. I I feel like I can't talk about this movie in like binaries of like this is a good thing and this is a bad thing.
Yeah,
But this
yeah,
is
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
this is just like a point that I'm gonna bring up, and I'm not even
Okay.
saying that this is like a criticism of the movie or anything. But it's like I think that I think maybe it's like maybe an oversight or something, or maybe I'm just like thinking too hard about the kids movie or whatever. But it's all like, I feel like they make kind of a point that like 99% of all of the Spider-Men are Peter Parker, right? But there's only
Yeah.
one Peter Parker in our main cast. You know, it's like all variants, and there's only one Peter Parker. Even though they kind of like
Yeah.
make it a point that like every
Well, you have,
Spider-Man is
you do
basically
have.
Peter Parker. Like,
There's a lot of, yeah. It's kind of a weird thing, and almost with like the whole Miles thing. They're like, you're not supposed to be Spider-Man, but then you have like some. I
yeah,
don't know. It's a
because
weird.
literally he like Miguel tells Miles, he's like, you're not supposed to be Spider-Man. There's supposed to be a fucking Peter Parker in your universe. And
Yeah, yeah.
Spider-Man, there's a Peter
But
Parker
he's
in another universe
literally,
that isn't
yeah.
Spider-Man, and it's like,
And it's
okay,
like Peter Parker isn't even telling him that. It's like a different guy.
yeah, and it just makes me think like I feel like they either should have probably like I think it's like they should have had like more Peter Parkers in the main like kind of group
Yeah.
of characters that we see, like the main ensemble.
Because you get
or,
like the Peter B. Parker, but it's like,
yeah, and Peter
that's-
B. Parker's
and then-
cool, but he's the only one. Or I think
Yeah.
they could have. I don't know. Maybe this is I'm just being dumb, and it's not something I should have been thinking about. Or I feel like they could have just like made it a point where it's like, oh, like yeah, it's not all Peter Parker. It's like there's a lot of like variant
Yeah.
Spider-Man, and it's like Peter Parker
Yeah.
isn't the guy that tells the story. But it kind
Well,
of made us feel like that it's like, oh, like everybody that you don't see, you could just assume is Peter Parker.
Well, it's
That isn't
almost
part
that
of the main
like those
ensemble.
things they do in like the Lord of the Rings things or whatever, where like they copy and paste all like the orcs and just like it's like all the like Spider-Man are just kind of copy and paste it, so you see a lot of them, but they're the same fucking dude a million times. It
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know. There's something
Well,
off
because-
about it.
And also, and it's like I fucking hate this multiverse shit because it gets me thinking about stuff like this, and it's like, God, it's fucking annoying. I hate thinking about this.
Yeah.
Too, because like they
It-
show PlayStation Spider-Man, and guess what? There's a Miles Morales Spider-Man in the PlayStation Spider-Man universe, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so like, are there a bunch of Miles Moraleses, or is it just them two, or does the PlayStation Miles Morales not exist in this multiverse? And
Yeah.
I'm just like start thinking, and I'm like, fuck, I hate that I'm thinking about this. Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny you bring it up because this is like not something that I thought about at all. So yeah, you kind of are just like doing damage to yourself almost by like thinking about it too much.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's,
Well, honestly, like these are like kind of nitpicks or whatever, but these were never things that like ruined the movie for me in the,
Yeah.
like during watching it. It was really, I just kind of, there was a lot going on and I couldn't really, there was nothing that really really worked for me. Like I know a lot of people online have been hyping up that whole like him running away from all the Spider-Man stuff and him like
Yeah,
was it a
I thought
train that
part
he's
was cool.
up?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
That
going on a
didn't
train
land
going into
for me
space.
at all, really. Like the whole
Interesting.
scene.
There's another problem I have with that scene too, where it's just like, and this is all plot stuff, and I know that we generally do not talk about plot stuff as criticisms, but as I can't, I'm sorry, but it's like, and what I'm about to say, it's like maybe the most annoying thing I've said on the podcast so far, where it's like,
Okay.
I didn't buy
like
it.
this episode or in all the episodes?
In all the episodes.
That'll be hard to
Okay.
beat, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where it's like when they're on the train, it's like I kind of didn't buy it when Miguel is beating the fucking shit out of Spider-Man, out of
Yeah.
Miles
Yeah.
Morales. There's 1,000 Spider-Man behind them, and not a single one of them is like, "Hey, chill out, dude." Like, not a single Spider-Man is like stepping in. And not fucking
Yeah.
Gwen or Peter B. Parker or literally.
Yeah, they just let him
any, or
kick
the
his
spectacular
ass,
Spider-Man,
man.
like any variant of Spider-Man. It's just like watching him kick Miles' ass. It's like,
Yeah, these kind of dudes, these kind of
What?
chumps, like they ain't no heroes, bro. What the
yeah,
fuck?
like literally, I was like,
No, I
feel
agree
like-
with that.
These are
I
like-
thought
these are
as
like
it was
evil
happening.
dudes, man.
Yeah, as it was happening, I thought about that, and I was like, I don't hate the idea of like what's going on as a whole, where they're like, oh, like we just have to do this, and they've like kind of accepted it. But I don't think that like morally every Spider-Man would just like sit to the side while it happens and or like
Yeah.
aid in it happening. Like there would be way
Yeah.
more people that are in
You can't
Miles'
play
shoes.
PlayStation now without thinking
Yeah.
about this dude's kind of bad. This guy evil dude.
Well,
man.
but like
Yeah.
specifically, it's like I kind of understand like, oh, like we have to catch him, right? Because it's like we have got to
Yeah.
protect the multiverse.
You
But
know,
like
beat his ass.
literally, they do a cut. They watch like Gwen and Peter B. Parker are just watching Miguel actually just like pound on him, dude, for like no
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
I don't
And
think
this-
there would be that many like Spider-Men that are just all spineless.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
no, literally. That's
But
funny
But
thing,
that's
it's
the
like,
whole thing.
it
Is
goes-
it's like
it go- it
at
goes
the end
against,
of it
like-
when they recruit the dudes and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, these are the real spider people that are like down with it. But like
Yeah.
but before they show like these a million dudes, they're like these
Yeah,
guys just
like,
kind of
Well,
it's
they
suck.
show
there's
like
so
they
many
show
of
like
them.
every variation of Peter
It's like
Parker. that we've already
99%
familiar
of
with.
Peter Parkers are just assholes, and then
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
you,
what?
Nicolas Cage and the pig are the only real ones. Like it's like,
Which, by the way, this is such a jump, but spoiler for the end of the movie. I'm very excited for if they come back in the next movie because I imagine they have to.
Well, that's
right?
what
Yeah,
I
John
said in
Mulaney
my.
and
That's
Nick
what
Cage.
I said in my TikTok. I was like, it's a layup or an alley oop for me that I feel like I'm gonna like the third one more because
Yeah.
it feels like all the stuff that I was missing feels like it's gonna happen in the next one, but
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, now we're just TV episodes.
Which I think, I think it's
Yeah.
like one of those. I mean, in general, like this is what I brought up when I made my review too, which is like one of my only like real complaints. That's not totally a complaint for me because I still like enjoyed this too much. But like, I have always kind of felt like for a very long time weird about multi-part movies. Like I've just always, I don't know, like it's just like they always leave me like wanting more, and it almost always feels like the first part of a two-parter is like bound to be the weaker movie. You know what I mean? Like I think this is like something that I felt even like growing up with like the Harry Potter stuff.
I think
like,
they can work, but I don't love the idea of them. But I don't think this
People-
one works as a part one.
People keep bringing up the Matrix sequels as like
Yeah. I
oh
think
like
those
basically
hold
like
on
they're
their
doing
own.
with the Matrix sequels
Yeah.
with this movies. I think the Matrix sequels are very different specifically because those two movies came out in the same year. Those two movies came out literally 3 months apart
Yeah.
from each other. You know, whereas
But
this
even
one is,
though
like,
I still think those two movies hold on like their own. Like obviously, like you're gonna be
the
confused a
cliffhanger at
little
the
bit.
end. The cliffhanger at the end of Reloaded is not as big as the cliffhanger at the end of this movie.
Yeah, no, but this, yeah, like exactly. I feel like the Reloaded works more as like you can watch that and like feel satisfied.
Yeah.
Where like this
Yeah.
movie feels very much half of a movie and it's 2.5 hours long.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they literally. It kind of just feels like that creative. It feels like at some point at one of the meetings that they had for like over this like to talk about the screenplay, right?
Yeah.
During the writing process, I feels like somebody in a screenplay meeting just brought up the idea of like, what if we just like don't have a third act in the first movie? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And like
Yeah,
everybody was
yeah.
just like, oh, that's interesting, and then that's kind of like just what they did.
It doesn't have a third act.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Which is like,
Um,
I guess that's where like I wish there was the emotional beats you didn't get because like you're kind of building up to something that the build up really didn't work for me, but the I didn't get any like emotional satisfactory because it. And I was talking about this scene earlier, and I think I really don't like how they did it. I think there would be a different way to kind of rework that scene because it's kind of a manipulative scene where he goes back, he goes in the little machine that sends him to the different universe, like the wrong universe or whatever. And you don't know you're in the wrong universe. And there's this moment where he's in his room and his mom comes in and he's about to like confess that he's Spider-Man. And I was like, that was for me, like I was feeling like, oh, this is probably my favorite scene of the movie. And then it's and I know that like the whole thing of it is that like, oh, he has to realize that he's in the wrong universe. I feel the way that they did it felt manipulative to the point of like she makes the joke and kind of to belittles like I know it's I don't know, it felt weird to me the way they wrote. I wish like he wouldn't have gotten as much off and like he would have seen Uncle Aaron come in and then noticed it felt weird to me. And I was like, oh, this is my favorite scene in the movie when he's explained that he's Spider-Man because that's what you want him to do. And that was like the only scene in the movie that kind of worked for me initially, and then it like got swept under the rug. I like the idea of him, the spider from the other universe. I like that idea. I just felt like that was the only emotional scene that I really got with Miles the whole movie, just for it to be like, who's Spider-Man, it didn't work for me in the moment. And that was like kind of what I was waiting for the whole movie, was for Miles to have an emotional beat.
You're making me feel like CinemaSins now because I'm thinking too, and I'm like, don't we think like from the logic of the film, she would have been able to figure out that like, oh, like there's something kind of just like wrong with my kid right now.
Well, that's the other thing is like when he sees Uncle Aaron, he's like, your hair is different and all this. Like he's a completely different kid, and the mom,
he's a completely different kid.
There's like no mother and son relationship where she's like, you're not my kid. Like she totally buys it.
Well, but wouldn't Aaron? Well, with the Aaron thing, wouldn't he know though? Because he knows about the other like they catch him and bring him to the other one. So like
Aaron knew, I think.
The mom reacting that way, I could see that complaint, but I don't think it makes as much sense with Aaron because like he's aware of what's happening, kind of.
Yeah. Aaron
I don't know. I just that part felt misguided for me.
I think it was not handled.
It's a perfect setup for the next one, but I felt weird about for this movie. It feels weird. It sets up the next one perfectly.
Here about this universe before there's just a couple of things I need to bring up. I listened to a podcast preparing for this, and it was a reaction podcast of this movie, and I'm happy I listened to it because there are some people that are on that podcast that have a different kind of cultural background than the three of us do. And specifically me, I'll speak for myself. Specifically, I have a different cultural background from me. And they brought up like two things specifically that made me go like, oh, I didn't even fucking consider that, dude. Because it's like not the kind of shit that one of the things that they fucking brought up was how like they didn't like how the evil Miles in this universe was just a black kid with no dad and braids. And is now just a criminal. They were like and I was like, oh fuck, that is kind of just like they just kind of just played
weird detail.
Black stereotype by being like, oh, like now because Miles like didn't grow up with a father figure, he has braids and is like a criminal.
Literally a criminal.
It's like that's wow, that is kind of like a stereotype that they played into. I don't like obviously probably unintentionally, but it's like it is kind of like it can be a damaging stereotype. I didn't even consider that.
I didn't think about that either. And also, it feels weird to say unintentionally as well because I feel like the default intention would be to just like make a Miles that looks exactly like him rather than
like
you know what I mean, rather than
giving
like
him braids. It's just like that is like such a weird detail, giving him braids, because like it's obviously sure it's like it's not as bad. It's like he's not like he doesn't have like dreads. Or cornrows which would be worse, but it's like braids are also just like it's like kind of like that stereotype like like thug kind of like what like racist white people think like a black guy that does crimes would look like
Yeah, I don't know, because the other, when you bring that up, I think of the other thing that I imagine we have to talk about at some point during the episode. But the only defense I'll make for it, because this is the only thing in the movie I didn't notice the thing you're pointing out. The only thing in the movie that annoyed me that is never not going to annoy me is the line where she comes home to her dad and she's like, "No, you're a good cop. Like if it was somebody else doing it, that would be worse. But like thankfully it's you." Like don't get me wrong, I fucking saw that part and I was like, this is fucking awful. Like I really hated that one specific line. The reason why it doesn't just like ruin it for me as much as I thought it would is because I do think it's intentional that they do it like that, and that's fucking annoying. Like I do think it intentionally feels a bit like propaganda, but I don't think that they ever like commit to like making the movie propaganda. They just have like a specific line that like just this 10-second bit that's like, oh, this is annoyingly propaganda, but there's nothing like in the story, I don't think, that serves that, because the dad doesn't have like any heroic moments or anything. Like he doesn't really do anything.
Here's the thing. Let me
know.
Isn't Miles in his, or I forgot what his universe is called. But isn't Miles in his universe just a cop basically? Like
in which universe?
The like his like home universe, like with his dad and stuff.
When he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, when he's Spider-Man, isn't Miles just like acting as Spider-Man? Isn't he just doing police officer work? For example,
but that's
he stops Spot.
Yeah, but isn't it like any hero?
That's a Spider-Man thing, though. Yeah, that's not even just a Spider-Man thing. That's like a superhero thing, kind of like that's like getting into the root of like superhero propaganda in general.
Yeah, but it's like because he stops the Spot from stealing the ATM, even though the Spot is very clearly like, hey, like I am a monster. I can't fucking like get a job and like eat things. Like I need like money for food or whatever.
Yeah, but it's, you know what I mean? That's like the same thing as like the fucking like that's when like I hear people be like, oh, like Batman's just a fucking greedy billionaire. Like it's like, yeah, he is, but like I'm just watching it because I like Batman. Like it's like, yeah, all the Spider-Man movies technically do have that kind of like pretense, like most superhero movies do, where like superheroes kind of aren't exactly the good guys that we think they are.
It's like Spider-Man can't pay the surface, talking like thinking about like the like trying to like being critically and analyze like the representation of police officers in the movie lead kind of like to that thought too of like, oh well, like who is Spider-Man kind of protecting? Who is Miles protecting in his universe? You know, it's like he's protecting the banks, he's protecting Nike, he's protecting. You know what I mean? It's like
I know exactly what you mean.
Not only Ben Affleck. Like he's like putting you know like those things above his like personal relationships with his family too, and it's like. Bro, it's like the ATM, like the bank has insurance, and it's like, bro, like Nike's gonna be okay if that guy steals those shoes. Like,
but I think that's what I mean. Where it's like, I think that idea in general is not something that I'm like blind to when I watch superhero movies as a whole. I think it's mostly just like, is this something you're going to overlook to enjoy a superhero movie? Because I think that's I don't think that's like a across the Spider-Verse problem. I think that's a superhero movie problem, the same way that like, you know, most superhero movies, specifically like really MCU movies, do that whole military propaganda thing. It's like, yeah, these are like this is just a blatant thing that like when you notice it goes on across most superhero movies. So it's more like, are you going to just like hone in on it being a superhero movie and not really think about that stuff, or like are you gonna just hate all the superhero movies? And I'm like, I'd rather try to enjoy it. Like the actual like cop story of this movie, I don't think like other than that line they really do anything to like really make cops look all that good.
I think really what I was trying to get at is like, it's like, not that this is like worse than any other contemporary superhero movie, as much as it's like, oh, like this isn't any different. Like, you know, it's like it's kind of like more of the same on a foundational level. Yeah,
you know, I agree with that. Which like obviously it'd be cool if we did get some sort of superhero movie that actually is like, you know, I don't know, a little different than what superhero movies serve now. But I don't think that that's going to happen in the mainstream. Like I don't think that superhero movies could really exist outside of like the kind of propaganda pieces that they have been for a while now.
Kevin, how did you feel about Spider-Punk? Because I like
Okay.
Daniel Kaluuya a lot, but I feel like he feels very much like a caricature and like,
It's
out of place in this movie.
And I know,
Misguided.
you tweeted something about this too, right, Doug? Or you posted something about it? Yeah. I mean,
I
okay.
wrote about it.
I get, I get I get what you're saying. I do think, obviously it is. Spider-Punk's a weird character because, the stuff you mentioned, like I don't know. I don't really know how to talk about it because I do like his
That's
character,
the thing.
but
He's cool, right?
yeah,
Like,
I
and
think he's a
Daniel
cool
Kaluuya,
character,
Daniel
and I
Kaluuya arguably
specifically like
gives
him
the
because of
best vocal performance as him in the movie.
agreed.
I said this yesterday when I was talking about him, and it's his character feels like one of those like Woody dolls where you like pull the string and he says a catchphrase, because I swear like everything he says is just like it's just some weird like quote unquote punk like catchphrase or something. Like he speaks in little like I don't know.
No,
It's
it does feel like they're like almost like making fun of like like
That's
somebody that should be revolutionary, but like
that's
get
my thing.
that
Yeah, it's like
complaint.
it feels like he's there. It feels like that he's like it's hard because it's what Owen was saying. He's one of the most stylistically like unique characters in the way that
he looks
animated the
awesome.
thing. And also I do think like he probably gives the best vocal performance in the whole movie with Daniel Kaluuya.
That's what it comes down to for me.
Between him
like,
or Spot, I think. I forgot whose voice Spot.
Schwartzman.
Schwartzman. Yeah.
I think that he also gives a really good vocal performance, but it's like everything about it's just like the way that his character was written. It's just like it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. I was like, you're supposed to be like this radical anarchist, but you're working for this fucking like the CIA. Like,
and he's also just like
yeah.
I don't know the more you look into that stuff, the more it's like this doesn't really make sense, and it almost feels like the Spider-Verse is kind of like gotten the military paycheck that the MCU gets. Like I get that, and I'm not like I'm willing to admit that that's definitely like weird. I think I just like the character because I heard Daniel Kaluuya and I was like, oh, that's Daniel Kaluuya. I was like, that's my favorite actor. So that's pretty exciting. And I love Daniel Kaluuya. Like I've talked about multiple times, I think, on the podcast and just in general. Like I fucking love
he's
Daniel
great.
Kaluuya, so that got me excited.
Pro Daniel Kaluuya podcast. He was
so I was just like,
he was
one
of my favorite performances in Nope. From the whole year that you're not.
Nope is terrific. I wanted to kind of quickly talk about Jason Schwartzman as the Spot, because I do think when you talk about like his performance, I think it's really good because in like the first kind of half of his arc, you're like, this is guy's kind of annoying and he's lame, and that's like the point. And then you have like him turning better, because the whole thing with him is he's in like the villain of the week, and he's kind of lame, and then he kind of like powers up into this like cooler thing. And I was like kind of anti his character at first, because I was like, this is actually kind of lame. But I think it works once he kind of powers up there. And I do think I want to talk about that scene when we're talking about the bank, or not the bank. He's in like a convenience store,
like
and there's
bodega.
He's trying to rob the ATM. During that scene, was like the first scene kind of you see Miles, and I felt like, I don't know, because the whole time we're with Gwen, I'm kind of just want to go see Miles now. I'm waiting for Miles, and then Miles has that scene, and it feels like a scene we've seen in like a million Spider-Man movies before, and it didn't work. It just kind of, I don't know. I felt like there was a lack of like energy from that voice acting performance, where it didn't do anything for me. And that was kind of the start of like that feeling for the whole movie, where just like the character of Miles didn't really, I don't know, there was not enough. It because I just feels like a scene that I've seen from Toby, from Andrew, from even Tom, that I felt like I've seen it a million times, and it didn't do anything. It just kind of felt very like we've been here before, which I guess is kind of like the point, is like, oh, this is just what Spider-Man does, but it was just like kind of lackluster in that kind of. There was I don't know. I don't know. It didn't work for me.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I
think
do. Well, now, what are you gonna say, Doug?
I was gonna say I just have because I don't want to forget, but there's another race thing in the movie that I wanted to get your guys' kind of cold feeling about,
Sure.
and because we already talked about how like there was it's just kind of like weird like side eye thing at the end with like evil Miles Morales, but it's like it's how do you feel about the fact that this movie is kind of like a movie about uh a black man and a Latino man fighting at that kind of at the core.
Yeah.
You know,
No, yeah. I don't.
which is like a very common stereotype throughout lots of things about
Yeah.
uh black people and Latino
Yeah.
people not getting along for whatever reason. Um
Yeah.
I don't know.
That one to me feels like more of an oversight than something like the evil Miles Morales. Like that to me feels like they were just like, we want to make what's Oscar Isaac's Spider-Man called?
Spider-Man
Miguel O'Hara.
2099.
Yeah, or Miguel O'Hara. Yeah, yeah. Like
Oh,
they were
Miguel
like,
O'Hara,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
yeah. They were like, like that. They were like, we want to make him the guy in the next movie. And I was like, I don't know. I think that feels more to me like something that they probably didn't put as much thought into as something
Yeah.
like what you mentioned with the evil Miles Morales, where it's like they probably could have caught this. Like they probably could have noticed that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to shit on the writers as much as I'm
Yeah.
trying to be like, oh, there's just like things in it that aren't. That,
Yeah, yeah,
what I'm
sure.
trying to get at is like the politics in the movie aren't necessarily awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It's not a
There's
perfectly perfect movie. I
I
mean,
was
not
just
even really
thinking
close
about
to
like
perfectly
Oscar
perfect.
Isaac's character, and I feel like this movie is so long, and you have so many characters, and I don't like that like the weird like they do like a lot of like quick cuts and stuff, and they're like backstory, 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 and I feel like they do that for so many of these Spider-Men, and there's so many Spider-Men that even with Miles, I feel like there's just so much going on that I really can't care about anyone. I just that's
Yeah,
just the biggest thing for me is with a Miguel O'Hara or even like Ben Riley or any of the new characters they add. I feel like I don't care about any of them because you get like 5 minutes of screen time here, and then you don't see him for half an hour, and then you get like 10 seconds here, and it's just there's so much movie, but there's
yeah.
like not enough movie for anyone. Like there's no, I
Yeah,
don't feel
but
like
that's
anyone
I
why
gets enough time to shine in the movie.
that's why Gwen is cool because like we get like
Gwen
Gwen
gets a
character moments.
whole yeah.
Yeah. And even like I really appreciate the fucking Peter B. Parker scene where he goes back home and like puts his
to
baby
his
down and we
kid,
see
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
we see
yeah,
him and
yeah,
MJ and I'm like, oh, he's a wife
mhm.
dude. It's like, yeah, this is the
yeah,
cool like this is like understanding
Even
his
yeah,
I
yeah.
character
think
better.
the
Like
the scene with Peter B.
I
Parker and he's chasing Miles and they're in that like weird like room. I think that's a solid moment. I just it's
yeah.
like there's so much movie, but there's just not enough moments that I actually like in the movie. It's
yeah.
just there's a lot of
Um,
movie, a lot of just like running around and talking about stuff I don't care about.
yeah. I get what you mean. I think okay. What I will say, because I feel like at some point before we wrap up, I have like this is a 5-star movie for me. I got to
Yeah,
mention
yeah,
some things.
yeah.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
to
yeah.
mention
Let's
some
hear it,
things I
Kevin.
like because
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I like you said, you already mentioned Gwen Stacy, which I agree. I think her character definitely gets the most focus this movie, which is, in my opinion, a good thing because like when you get back to like the emotional beats and caring about the characters and stuff like that, I think something that really wins me over about this movie that probably won't win as many people over, but it's just because this is the nature of who I am and these are the types of movies I like, is that like the romance between the two of them just like totally works for me. Like I'm like I totally buy into it. I think every time they're like together, it's interesting. I think all of like the way that this kind of is turning into like a multi-movie like slow burn where they're like friends in the first movie and now there's like a clear tension between them in this movie but nothing actually happens and now they leave us on a cliffhanger for the next movie.
Mhm.
I totally like love that kind of thing. I'm like this is like what I'm here for. Like that kind of like that relationship between the two of them I think is so much stronger than any other relationship that happens in this movie. Whether it's like Miles and
Yeah.
so whatever
Peter.
Spider-Man's yeah, Peter's
Yeah.
character, or like any stuff like that. I think Miles and Gwen Stacy, like that relationship is so strong. And I also, yeah, I think that keeps me going. And then the other thing is, and I go back to what I was saying about the multi-part thing, and I mentioned Harry Potter because I think this reminds me a lot of that, where it's like when I was younger and that final Harry Potter movie was split into two parts. I remember a lot of people, including myself, feeling like that first part was like a 2.5 hour movie that was just like set up for what's to come next. Like it was like, we'll make one movie with all the exposition, and then we'll make one movie that's just 2 hours of like action packed, like fun. And as a child, I was like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. I was like, this kind of didn't give me everything I wanted. And then as time passed and I like rewatched it, the more and more like growing up, I was like, oh no, the first part I actually really do like. And I think similarly with this, it's kind of how much do you buy into all of this? And as somebody who loved the first movie, I'm like, I do buy into this. Like the scenes that I think other people are watching this movie and being like, this is boring, or like this movie's overly long. Like you mentioned, it's like the longest Western animated movie. And it's like, yeah, a lot of people are probably people who are thinking negatively of this movie at least are watching it and be like, yeah, it probably is a little too long. And I'm like, for me, I kind of don't really care what's happening in this world because I'm just enjoying all of it. And there's really not any moments that happen other than like the specific critiques that I point out. There's not moments in this movie where I'm bored or am not having, like, I'm having fun the whole time, and I'm very
You're in your
invested.
Avatar: The Way of Water zone with this movie, like I was.
Exactly.
I was like,
exactly.
You could make this movie 5 hours long, and I would fuck with it. I don't give a shit about.
That's what I'm saying. Where it's like I can see why other people would probably think not that much happens in this movie, and it's because not that much happens in the movie, but like but for me it does, because I just like care. Like I'm like, and if you do, then it makes it worth it, and if you don't, then like you're probably not going to enjoy it that much, and that's okay. But like I just do like pretty much everything that's happening, and you can mention all of like the very obvious things, the fact that like I mean, nobody, whether they like the movie or not, is going to debate how well animated it is, and like that's stuff to me as well, where it's like, even if I'm getting bored, I could just look at the screen and be like, oh shit, and then I'm not bored anymore, you know what I mean? Like it's like, I don't know, there's not really a moment in this movie where I wasn't totally invested in everything going on.
The craft is so undeniable that I feel like people are getting I feel like people are starting to say that like, oh, like everything about the movie is undeniable, and it's like, well,
and it's not like you mentioned the politics, and I'm like, yeah, politically this is not a great movie, but politically Batman's not a great movie either. And I love that one, you know what I mean? Like it's like the new Batman with Robert Pattinson. I'm like, this movie has some pretty messy politics, but you know what?
But Zoe Kravitz is in it
time. So. Like I was like, I don't know. So
we kind of, because you mentioned the Harry Potter movie, and I'm not crazy about Deathly Hallows 1, but I think for me it almost feels like we just got to know Miles, and I feel like even though the first movie's like it's big and it's multiverse, it still feels like I don't care about these characters enough to like have this movie where it's like, I don't know, I feel like, and this is kind of a personal thing for me because I really like those Tobey movies. And the best part about those Tobey, and you talked about the romance between Gwen and Miles, and I do like them together. I do like their characters. I just wish we got them more. It's like it feels like the best parts of the movies are just stuff that is sprinkled throughout, and there's just a lot of stuff that I'm not too thrilled about. But that's just me kind of liking more grounded. I just like it more grounded, I think that the first one does a better job of grounding it and also having it really big. Because I think the first one it's big, and but you have like pigs and shit, like, but it also feels very grounded, like he's going to school and he's all this stuff. It feels grounded even in the large scape of it, and I feel like this one kind of lost its groundedness. It feels more like when you're in. It feels like if Infinity War was trying to be a Spider-Man movie or something like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree with that. That's fine.
Yeah, I like the movie though. I feel like people might not know that I like this movie. I like it.
No, but when you mention,
I think it's very pretty.
No, I agree. And the thing about the romance, like that you mentioned, that I guess is like the opposite for me, is like that to me is like something that makes romance work, especially if it's like across multiple movies, where it's like, let's put these people together in the first movie, and now you see like they give you like flashes of like why they're so good together in this movie, like when they're on the screen together, you're like, oh, I want them to be together.
Yeah.
But then the fact that they're not together for a lot of the movie makes it be like, oh, I want to get back to when they are together. And like that to me is like an aspect of romance that always seems to work. If you get some sort of like, if they get that initial feeling where it's like, you want these people to be together and that works for you, then like it's gonna work when they're apart, in my opinion. But I don't know.
Speaking of their romance, have you guys seen the clips of Shamik Moore and
Oh my
Haley Steinfeld
god.
talking about Haley Steinfeld? It is
just like I'm not gonna lie, those clips almost made me want to not enjoy the romance in the movie as much. I was like, I can't believe that what I'm watching on screen is
real
these
life
two
chemistry.
actors.
Like they're like the movie is so lucky that this like they're not acting in real life, like live action.
Yeah,
because,
like it's animated.
And that Haley Steinfeld could be in her own booth, because like damn, it does not look like they have any
she needs a
chemistry.
fucking huge booth, man.
Yeah, I saw somebody say, like, I was like, their publicist had to have talked after this fucking interview, because he was so like he was so weird.
Yeah,
dude.
that's
like,
funny.
What is it he said? He was like, I mean, he said something about like, yeah, you know, it's like it's easier looking at Haley and thinking about me and Miles trying to get to Gwen, you know what I mean? And then Haley Steinfeld gives him like a,
which is such a weird thing to say. Such a weird thing to say out loud. Yeah. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, it was like the Twitter was like the only like Spider-Man not to like successfully like get this co-star or something.
Yeah, there's that thing where like,
every Spider-Man dates his co-star pretty much.
And then it's like, no, he fumbled the bag. No, bro is not Josh Allen.
No. Bro's not even
also is crazy. This isn't a sports podcast, but that's also that's also crazy.
Josh, shout out Josh Allen.
Anyway, that seeing that video made me be like, damn, I am so happy that this movie is animated and I could just pretend that like these people don't know each other in real life. I don't know. I don't know that there's anything else I like really want to cover about the movie. I mean, obviously I like all of it other than the complaints that I made. So like, or the things that I agree with, like I'm willing to secede those things. But yeah, I mean, I like this movie.
I mean, I like it too. Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. I mean, Spider-Man 2, directed by Sam Raimi, is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, full stop.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So that should be, if anything, maybe a final talking point. I assume you guys have all three Sam Raimis above this movie. Where do the Spider-Verse movies rank for you guys alongside the rest of the Spider-Man
I'm going to speak
movies?
before Owen, because Owen has like the worst fucking annoying Spider-Man ranking after the Sam Raimi movies. I will say this.
Okay.
I think that both of the Spider-Verse movies are better than every Spider-Man movie that Sam Raimi's not involved in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it goes like the Sam Raimi trilogy, then it goes the Spider-Verse movies, and then it goes all the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. So I like the Andrew stuff, but I could like, it's like I haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse in a while. I could see it being like the first. I like my favorite Spider-Man Raimi one is 1. I like the origin stuff, and I like Willem a lot. But I like, it's pretty much 1, 2, 3 for Raimi, but I think all of them are kind of amazing. 3 is really great. Like people don't like that movie, but 3 is really great.
Yeah.
And then probably it's like it's either I like the Andrew stuff, and but it's like I think it's a big gap for me from 1 to 2 on those Spider-Verse movies, at least now. And then it's just like the Tom stuff at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I like the Andrew stuff and Into the Spider-Verse kind of like the same in the middle, and then Sam Raimi's like clear ahead. And then like Tom's at the bottom of the fucking floor.
Yeah.
Man, I hate those fucking Andrew Garfield movies so much, dude. That's just so crazy.
Honestly, it's been a little while, but I did do like a whole Spider-Man binge a little while back. Like I guess it's probably been over a year now. I don't remember when it was, but I did like those Garfield movies a little more than I thought I remembered.
It's just for me, it's like it's kind of more of what I just want in a Spider-Man movie. It's just kind of a Walmart version of the Tobey stuff. but I think it
Yeah.
just does
Well,
what I want, you know?
the thing that I remember the most, doesn't have anything to do with plot or anything.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Doug was not prepared with the do not disturb for the record.
Yeah, I don't know. I like also it's like Andrew Garfield. I love him a lot. I love Emma
Yeah, of course.
Stone,
Yeah.
Martin
Yeah.
Sheen,
Yeah.
Sally Field. I really like that cast, and I think my brother was watching it. Like I just kind of saw a scene earlier, and I was like, this is just kind of a worse version of the scene in Toby movie where Uncle Ben dies. There's like, oh, this is just a worse version of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're anything crazy. I think they're just like they have some really interesting highs, and I like Garfield, and I think the emotional beats are good. But yeah, it's like for me, I think Into the Spider-Verse and the Garfield stuff are kind of in the middle for me, and then just the Tom Holland stuff doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Raimi stuff kind of reigns high, and it's a lot of people are like, oh, this new one is like the best Spider-Man movie ever made, which is definitely a take.
Yeah, which in my eyes is Into the Spider-Verse, but
and honestly, I feel like recently the
I don't think I
Raimi
can
stuff,
respect anybody.
the Raimi stuff's
else.
gotten a lot of shit.
Yeah,
like you talked about, you like those movies. It's like a nostalgia blind, and it's just, those movies are really well made movies.
That's what I'm saying. Where it's like if you're, I mean, from my perspective, like Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite Spider-Man movie, and I'm pretty comfortable saying that. But I can't see anybody being like, oh, like all the MCU movies are better than the Tobey Maguire movies, and like that being like a logical opinion.
I can't fathom. I don't understand I feel like because I know the third movie is a little messy and whatever, but it feels Doug, a lot of people will have like those rankings, and it will be like, okay, I got 1 and 2 or 2 and 1 up here, and then like 3 is near the bottom. And I think 3 could even, like, it's really fun, and I think like a lot of what Sam Raimi does well. Oh, there goes Doug. A lot of what Sam Raimi does well in 1 and 2, like visually and just like on a filmmaking standpoint, just kind of carries over to 3. So it really comes from like you don't like how they handle Venom, or like a plot thing where you don't like 3. But I really like 3. I rewatched those like a couple weeks ago.
No, I agree. I like those movies a lot. Outside of Spider-Verse stuff, I think Spider-Man 2 is definitely like my favorite Spider-Man movie, other than the Spider-Verse stuff, for sure. Anyway, anybody who's watching video has noticed that Doug has magically disappeared on us. So we're gonna take a little break before we cover some news. All right, let's talk about some news before we wrap up. We'll start with this headline because it's very topical to 2 of the things that we've talked about this episode already, which is that the Boogeyman director Rob Savage teases that he's got multiple projects with Sam Raimi in the works. 2 directors that we've mentioned this episode. How do we feel?
I mean, shout out Sam, man.
Owen, I feel like you have a bad track record with Sam Raimi as a producer.
I mean, like what, 65? What else is he produced?
Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, but that's not his fault. Yeah, I mean, like him being a producer isn't really like blowing me out of the moon. I really want him to just direct something again. But those are 2 guys that
we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah, I don't know. That's cool though. 2 guys that I like. Shout out
part of this headline when I read through the full article also included something that we didn't mention when we were talking about the Boogeyman, but I mentioned to you when we were talking privately, Owen, which is that at the end of this article, Rob Savage mentions that he already has a plan for a sequel to the Boogeyman if the Boogeyman is successful enough, which I mentioned which I mentioned is something I didn't like about the Boogeyman, was like including that like very last
talk about it
cliffhanger
in the movie. Like they have that like she's at the therapist thing, and then the door.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, is he still there? And I'm like, okay, I don't care about this.
Like, spoilers for the Boogeyman. If you don't want to hear it, skip 15 seconds. They kill the Boogeyman at the end of the movie, but then the singer at the end is like, "Oh, the Boogeyman might not actually be dead." Basically, like
exactly. And I just think it's like to me, it's just like, oh, they're just throwing this in here for a sequel, like, which apparently now we know. He does have a sequel in mind.
I think, because like obviously the first one's like based off the short story and stuff. I think there's an opportunity for a sequel to be better, just because it's like he can just do more of his shit and kind of be more freed. So I actually don't hate it. It can be very bad though. I just think like it depends how they do it. Obviously, I think there's an opportunity
Get Rob
for it to
Savage in
be.
the fucking writers' room for the Boogeyman.
Yeah, I feel like there's an opportunity, especially if he's like writing it or something, or it's like just a broader, different idea. It's like he kind of has a setup to expand and actually have a better movie for the sequel.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally against it. It could be just like a run of the mill, annoying kind of useless sequel.
I don't have the exact words pulled up, but something he mentioned somewhere in there where he was like, "Yeah, I do have an idea for a sequel," and he was like, "It would be darker than this movie, and like I have some ideas that are like things that people haven't seen before." So I don't know, maybe if he has
let Rob cook.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
Okay.
The
Next one we got
the Boogeyverse.
The
Boogie.
The next one we have, which I'm sure you guys have heard about a lot already. The Tom Cruise is reportedly unhappy with Oppenheimer taking away all the IMAX screens from Mission Impossible. Which, like, to be fair, the way that they're marketing Oppenheimer by like constantly bringing up this IMAX thing, like, does he really think they're gonna take away the IMAX screens from Oppenheimer?
Well, no, here's the thing.
This is such a selling point.
No, here's the thing. There's a lot of fucking details that go into this, and a lot of people are misrepresenting the facts. Nolan has a 3-week exclusivity deal with IMAX, where every IMAX screen has to show exclusively Oppenheimer for the first 3 weeks it releases, right? That's like, it's like even like individual movie theaters cannot change it even if they wanted to, because like it's a thing with IMAX, which is like going over their head. But but the new Mission Impossible 7 comes out 1 fucking week before Oppenheimer, so it gets 1 week in IMAX and like premium large format before those movies come out. So it's like, I get it, but also it's like, man, Paramount is just fucking you, Tom. Like, why is Paramount?
Yeah, why are they releasing it? I saw something. There's a good like window in a certain month where he'd only have to compete with like Blue Beetle and shit. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And it's like, that's a perfect time where you could crush, and you're like, why are you fighting Oppenheimer? Just like move your fucking date.
Oh well. The other thing I wanted to mention while we were on this subject is this isn't part of it, but we don't have to talk in detail about that like dumbass thing about like the Oppenheimer film reel being like 11 miles long or whatever and weighing like 600 pounds.
Larger than a gorilla.
But yeah, I wanted to mention the funniest fucking headline in the world is these people. I was laughing so hard about this when we were talking last night. The headline being Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer IMAX print weighs more than a gorilla. Like, why is that the title of someone's article? Like,
it's like an Onion article.
Like, you could just say it weighs 600 pounds. Like, why? It's just so fucking dumb. I can't get over how fucking stupid that article title is, and it's so silly. And I just like needed to mention it because that made me laugh a lot.
Kevin,
yeah.
Are you going into the city to see Oppenheimer on IMAX Liberty Bell?
I was so strongly thinking about it, and I was like, and I said to my friend in person yesterday, I was like, we should go do this, and he was like, yeah, I'd be down. And then I realized that the tickets were already on sale, and that theater is completely sold out for opening night. So I was like,
opening night is like out of the question. You would have to go see it all week.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, would I rather go see this in the city or be able to see this the first night like everybody else? And I was like, I'd rather just see it the first night it comes out. So I'm just gonna see it here in regular IMAX.
Seeing it like on like a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, if I could go to that theater and rewatch it, like if I really end up liking the movie and I'm like, this is my favorite movie of the year, then I'll be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go rewatch it in the city. But for now, I'm just gonna see it in a normal IMAX theater.
Yeah, because we're talking about is AMC Lincoln Square, which is which is
the
largest IMAX screen in North America, but also for some reason, the only fucking place in New York that is showing it on 70mm IMAX. That's very annoying too. So it was like, man, when the tickets went on sale, the amount of people trying to get like opening night tickets
Yeah.
there was like so like New Yorkers, I think, like just New Yorkers crashed the fucking AMC app the day that the
Just
tickets
New
went on
York.
sale, I think, because people kept trying to get Lincoln Square tickets.
Yeah, very
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 crazy.
silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, maybe I'll go see it there. Not really sure, but
Owen, will you be
um,
traveling to go see it in 70 millimeter IMAX?
Oh,
where's
I
the
haven't
closest one
even
to you? Because there's only like 20 screens, right?
Yeah, there's.
Is
I think there's
there?
19.
I
think
haven't
there's
even looked
19
at all
full
on about
full.
Because
Oppenheimer.
I don't know that there's too many on the East Coast outside of the New York City one, the one like lower than here in what is like Georgia or whatever. I don't know if there's one near Boston or anything like that.
I don't know
Yeah, I
either.
don't know.
That's
I
what I'm
haven't even
asking.
looked at Oppenheimer. I'm
because
not.
I know a lot. I know there's
I doubt
multiple in
I'll travel
California.
that far. I might go to the city to see Oppenheimer, but I mean,
Yeah,
that's not.
Like if they showed
yeah.
in Boston, you might consider it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I want to see Master
Yeah.
Gardner in Boston, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Master Gardner, which is like I think on VOD today.
Shout out.
Which I mean, I gotta watch it soon.
Yeah.
Like as soon
Yeah,
as I'm
you'll
able
like
to
it
watch
and
content,
resonate
yeah.
with it.
I made a little. Okay, well, don't say that. I know what the movie's. Okay, come on.
He likes gardens and stuff.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, he's a
I'm sure.
master
Yeah,
gardener.
yeah.
He's really good at
I'm
gardening.
asking 'cause I might travel. Me and my friend are talking, and I try to cancel it, but I don't know. It's like I may or may not be traveling like 10 hours to go see Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter. Because the closest screen to me is fucking Indianapolis, which is like 10 hours away.
Yeah,
Jesus.
you live in the
Yeah.
shitter, man. That's it's
I don't
crazy.
I there's things. It's crazy because obviously I probably like movies more than anything, but there's things I would travel 10 hours for. A movie is not one of those things. I don't think. I don't know that there's a movie that I would get excited enough for to drive 10 hours to see.
What about like
Well, I'm not even
5
that
months
excited for
earlier
Oppenheimer.
or something like that? Like it
5
was
months early?
like if you could see Barbie like
Okay, well
5
that's like
months ago
okay.
or
That I
something.
think
Or
I think
something,
that calls
a
into
movie.
question like something different where it's like I would take a vacation to another country to go to like Cannes, for example, if I got to like go to a film festival. But just to like if I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like home and it's like, oh yeah, Oppenheimer's playing,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like
Yeah, you can
like
either see it
Oppenheimer,
20
like
minutes away
if
or
I
like
wasn't
10 hours away.
if I wasn't like
Yeah.
in like right next to New York City and let's say New York City was like 10 hours away from me, I wouldn't be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna drive 10 hours to New York City
Let's
to go
say
see it. on
hypothetically, let's say hypothetically,
Sunday.
like next week, right?
Okay.
Martin Scorsese's team reached out to you and was like, "You get a private screening of Killers of the Flower Moon with Martin Scorsese in Omaha."
You like sit next to
Right?
him?
Oh, I'd drive to
driving-
Omaha,
you're
obviously.
driving to Omaha?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but that's like such a different scenario than like you could just go see this movie in 70 millimeter. Like if
Yeah.
you drive
Yeah.
10, like if I'm getting a private screening with the director, then yeah, I'll drive 10 hours to go see it. I'm just talking about like to go see a movie normally. There's no way I'm driving like multiple hours when it's
Did you
playing
see-
locally.
Did you see that TikTok MFer? He got a private
Oh,
screening
yeah,
of
yeah, with
Oppenheimer
Nolan.
with Nolan. People
With
were
the-
shitting on him on
Oh,
Twitter
I
because
did.
he was recording so many bits for TikTok that he would like be like
Yeah.
take his phone out, and do like the whatever TikTok like transition like recording with your phone. Look
Yeah.
up at like the camera, then pan over to Nolan watching the movie, and it's like put your fucking
Wait,
phone away, dude.
during the movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
But also it's like
I
he's
know,
like
I know, I
he's
know.
like doing it for like marketing and stuff. Like it's
I
like I mean,
know.
yeah, you know, like he has to do that stuff. It's fine. It's
he's the
fine.
worst, man.
Let him. No,
Oh.
he's fine. I follow him on Letterboxd too. I like him.
He's not
the worst.
He's like a
You
sweet
would.
dude. No, but what do you mean you would? Like
I
he's
bet
just
he
like
liked
a
it
nice
with his
dude.
Spider-Verse
Like, he
too. I
doesn't
bet he
do
gave
it.
it 5 stars.
I'm sure he did. I don't like. I'm not. I don't follow him for his
Oh, and
opinions.
most people gave it 5 stars.
Yeah, 61%.
I don't
Um,
follow him for his opinions. He's just like a seemingly nice dude. He's like not harmful.
Yeah,
That
I
we
will
know
say,
of.
though, that shut the fuck up. I will say though
Okay.
that
Yeah.
Asteroid City video he made was really annoying.
Oh, I
you
didn't
see
see
that?
that one.
Oh, like the
he
Wes
did that-
Anderson trend on the Wes
Yeah,
Anderson
the Wes Anderson trend,
trends.
but he did it with like the
Uh,
cast of Asteroid City.
Yeah, he made.
Maybe I
Scarlett
did see it.
Johansson,
I think
like,
I think I saw it
tweet
and just kept scrolling. Actually,
Yeah, you like
I
reposted it.
think I just skipped it. Anyway, let's circle back to some headlines. What else do we got? We got Robert Eggers' Nosferatu has wrapped filming. How do
Yep.
we feel about
It's
that?
in color.
I could.
When do we have a release date for that? Right?
Okay, so
see.
what I've found did not pull a release date. All I have is the cast, which, if anybody's interested, Lily Rose Depp, Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, Willem
Speaking
Dafoe,
of Lily
Emma
Rose Depp,
Corrin,
what
and
are you watching the
Aaron
Idol
Johnson.
tonight,
I don't know yet.
I
I might. I know I'm gonna watch the first episode at least. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it live tonight or if I'm gonna wait till tomorrow. But here's the thing: fun podcast insight for the people listening. Tomorrow is the premiere of the new season of Love Island. So I'm going to be pretty occupied. Don't think that I'll have time to watch the Idol tomorrow.
You can't double watch.
Yeah, so I think I might have to watch. But it's the question of, do I watch the Idol live while the NBA finals are going on?
Oh, Jesus.
This is crazy, Kevin. This is crazy.
I don't. I mean, if the finals game tonight is like if Denver's just like blowing out Miami tonight, then I'll be like, fine, I'll turn the Idol on.
Yeah, so you'll watch the Idol.
Time to watch that. Yeah.
It's like
when as soon as Miami goes down by 20, I'll turn on the Idol. Yeah.
No, I will be watching the Idol tonight after the basketball game. And then
I'll watch it at some point.
And I'll post an article in the morning about it.
Yeah. I'm either going to make a TikTok talking about how I hate it and I'm not going to watch the rest of it, or I won't make a TikTok.
You're gonna be the biggest pro Idol TikToker in the map, bro.
Me?
You're gonna be the biggest fan.
Don't you like?
I am for sure. There is like no way I watch the show and enjoy it, especially because the weekend's in it. I've never.
Don't you like Euphoria though?
But don't you like Taylor Swift?
I did like Euphoria. I like the communal experience of experiencing like the craziness of Euphoria.
So you like the
I enjoy the
experience of the Idol.
Idol
live tweets.
I will enjoy.
Everyone goes to Twitter for live tweets of the Idol.
Is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? Because Euphoria was kind of like a big thing. I don't. But are all of
I think people are going to be talking about the Idol tonight. I think we'll have a number of people talking. about the Idol
people
tonight.
hate.
I know a number of people. I know a number of people other than hate watchers who are actually very excited for the Idol. I have
the only person I
a little bit of love watching
is excited for it is John. I know John, who we mentioned.
Yeah, shout out John. Second John mentioned.
John fucks with Sam Levinson, so he's excited for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not excited for it. I think I'm not gonna like it most likely, but I'm going to at least watch the first episode. I don't.
How many episodes are there?
I don't know. 10 maybe.
Like
8?
Yeah, like 10, 12 episodes.
No idea. I don't know really any details about the show other than the stuff that I've heard that. And,
I know details.
And I've seen the trailer. And I've seen the trailer and been like, oh yeah, this is not going to be a show that I enjoy. But we'll see when we get there. Anyway, so do we want to say anything about Nosferatu or move on? Do you guys care?
I mean, it's like completed finishing.
I
don't know. Are you excited? Or do you not care? Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's excited. It's non-news to get excited about. Like, it's a non-news thing. Like, oh yeah, they finished filming. I hope they did. That's like I expect them.
Yeah, well, then the other movie that I'll tie in with the Nosferatu news that is also like that we have a release date for now. That I imagine I don't remember what your guys' opinions were on these movies, but I know we talked about them together for a while. Terrifier 3 releases in late 2024, and filming is going to begin later this year, and the budget has been increased to the low to mid 7-figure range. So it's going to be at least $1 million movie.
I saw that it was going to be
at least
a couple $1 million probably.
They gotta get that Boogeyman budget.
No, this movie's going to be great.
Bad.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing. This is like real auteurist horror shit. This
movie is going to be a movie that a lot of people enjoy and that I don't, but that's okay. But it's only because No, I don't know. I'm gonna see it. I will see it in theaters.
I like the first Terrifier. People always talk about how like the Terrifier 2 is good, but the first Terrifier is bad. I like the first Terrifier. That's some.
I still haven't watched the first one, and I don't think I'm
gonna watch that movie.
Hot's like, oh, and you would hate it. And Kevin, you would also not like it, but I like it. It's cool. Good movie. I watched Bupkis. You guys watch Bupkis?
I want to watch.
I do want to start it though. Yeah, we've talked about it.
I know that Art the Clown makes a cameo.
Art the Clown makes a cameo, and it's kind of scary. The context is scary too, because it's like he's having a bad trip and he sees Art the Clown, and that's like,
that's awesome. That's kind of awesome though.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Shut up, Pete.
Shut up, Pete.
Yeah, I mean that's really only that we don't really have too many big news on. I guess we could talk about yeah, I don't know. Oh, I guess we could talk about the Channing Tatum thing. That's kind of like the last big thing is like Channing Tatum
That's
saying,
my dog.
Yeah, Channing Tatum said the only reason I bring this up is the
2021 or
only reason I
something.
bring up this headline is because of the replies that I saw, which is what I'll ask you guys about. But Channing Tatum said the movie industry is changing so much; it's a different era now, and it's getting crazier with the streamers. I fear a little for the storytelling of it all. I think there will be less good storytelling and a lot more product out there. And the replies to this were people like roasting Channing Tatum and being like, "Who are you to say that? Like you're in like the Step Up movies and like and
that's
like
Twitter for you.
Magic Mike." He's like, there's like a top reply that said like, "Oh, does Magic Mike have any storytelling?" Like, yeah, it fucking does, dude.
Yeah,
like,
the visual storytelling of the
that's a funny one to bring up. Like, yeah, that one specifically does because it's
like
well, the
quite
Magic
a lot
Mike
of
movies,
it. Yeah,
like it's like there's a plot.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think it's weird to shit on Channing Tatum and act like he's like this nobody actor when like Channing Tatum has a number of good performances and good movies.
He's good.
And people are just like
I like
lame
him.
for dunking on him for saying something that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean,
like
we fuck with Channing Tatum.
Yeah, this is a pro Channing Tatum pod.
This is a pro CT pod.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I included a little Ryan Gosling quote because this just made me smile. This just made me this isn't news, but Ryan Gosling was talking about Eva Mendes and he said, "After I met Eva, I realized that I just didn't want to have kids without her, and there were moments on The Place Beyond the Pines where we were pretending to be a family and I didn't really want it to be pretend anymore." And I thought that was the cutest thing ever.
He's just like Zach Braff for real,
that made me smile because I love The Place Beyond the Pines, and it's cute that they met on the set of that movie and now they're together and it's adorable, and that made me happy. So that's the news I wanted to end on. That's not really news at all, but I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
All.
Shout out Ryan, man.
Yeah. Also a pro Ryan Gosling pod, but yeah.
Yeah.
Next
Movies
week
are making money. Next week.
Yeah. Next week.
Next week's kind of big.
Next week we are going to be talking
kind of like large.
We're not going to be talking about Transformers, sadly.
We're going to be talking about
Francis Davidson's new movie, Transformers.
No, we're going to be talking about Twixt, the 2011 movie Twixt, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and we're going to have a special guest joining us. So that is an episode that people will want to watch.
Yeah, be there.
Mid guest.
Mid guess.
I wouldn't say that.
Mid guess is crazy.
Yeah, no, not cutting that. By the way, I'm gonna let our guests know that you said that. But yeah, we'll see everybody next week.
Put that on TikTok.
Yeah.
All right, bye.